Okay, we finished yesterday in the discussion, if you recall, a group of people or a person who is known as Devei Rav or Bei Rav had said that Rav paskins like Rabbi Yosei in two cases, the case of the hermaphrodite that we've been talking about, the androgynous, and the case of the grafting, which we also saw the example of that. And then we saw that we had a statement in the name of Shmuel that in the case of a woman who is bleeding because of contractions or something like that in relation to her pregnancy, and whether or not that is a case of Zov, Shmuel paskins like Rabbi Yosei, and he also paskins that way in the case of Kiddush, which we're going to learn what that is right now. So we heard about the case of Yoledet Bezov, where Rabbi Yosei said, I believe that she had that anything within 2 weeks is still reasonable to say that it's related to her contractions, but more than that, we assume that that's really a case of Ziva. Kiddush, we're 4 lines from the end on Pei Gimel Amud Aleph. Kiddush ditnan המשכך גפנו על גבי תבואתו של חברו, הרי זה קידש, וחייב באחריותו דברי רבי מאיר. Somebody whose vine is planted in his field, but in some way he manages to prop it up so that it is hanging over the grain crop of his fellow, has created a situation of kilei hakerem, of a vine that's mixed up with other kinds of species, and that's asur. You have to burn it. We call it kiddush. It's not actually, we don't say asur. We say that it's become holy. You're not allowed to eat it. You're not allowed to get any kind of benefit from it. You need to burn it. So the problem is that this fellow did this with his part with another person's field. He didn't actually plant a vine in it. He just moved his vine so that it was overhanging this field. So Rabbi Meir says that's it. He has to burn it, and he has to pay for the other fellow's losses. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon omrim, ein adam oser davar she'eno shelo. A person is not able to create a situation of kilei hakerem on somebody else's field. Strictly speaking, what he says is a person is not allowed to make, or is not able to make something asur that does not belong to him. So this is an interesting view on kilei hakerem, on the idea of kilaim, that somehow, although we assume that kilaim is actually about sort of a state of being, that you have 2 different kinds of plants in one place, at the end of the day, Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon say, yes, that's true, but it also has to be yours. You can't just go around making other people's fields kodesh. It was asked in the Beit Midrash of the Amoraim, Be'androgonus mali amar Shmuel. So we heard Bei Rav say, we know there's a machloket, we heard Bei Rav say that Rav paskins like Rabbi Yosei by androgynous and by harkava, by grafting. But what does Shmuel say? So we say, Tashma, De'amar Shmuel Ravanan, Leita lebraita mikamei matnitin. Shmuel said, the braita does not stand in the face of the Mishnah. The braita, what was the braita? We said it didn't stand in the face of the Mishnah. The braita was the braita that said that Rabbi Yosei holds that a androgynous is, well, depends how you understand it, but he says an androgynous is a birya bifnei atzma, its own category, and it is not, the Chachamim never said if it was a man or a woman. Now I'll just point out, because I didn't say it yesterday, that there's a long Tosfos on this. This is quite an interesting question of, is the androgynous simply a suffix that the Chachamim never actually developed, or is the androgynous a third kind of option, a different category? What's that?
Isn't that the Gemara's?
So the Gemara seems to have a question between whether the androgynous is a zachar, which we seems to be the position of Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Eliezer in the Mishnah, and whether it might. I mean, it's unclear what it means in the Braita. In the Braita, where Rabbi Yosef says birya b'fnei atzma, it could be birya b'fnei atzma that it's an unverified safek, or birya b'fnei atzma, it's its own thing. The Tosfos tend to go in the direction of saying that an androgynous is in this particular Braita means birya b'fnei atzma mamash, meaning that it really is a third category, a third gender that is included neither in Zachar and Nekeva. And they say, but there are places where the Mishnah treats the androgynous as an actual safek. So we're still kind of in this question. In any case, Shmuel paskin that the Mishnah stands in the face of the Braita, which makes it sound like Shmuel paskins like Rabbi Yosef in the Mishnah. I have to point out that just because the Braita doesn't stand in the face of the Mishnah, that could be Shmuel's final statement that, okay, well, Rabbi Yosef's final statement was in the Mishnah, not in the Braita. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's paskening that way. But at the same time, why would he be evaluating which Rabbi Yosef is the authoritative Rabbi Yosef if he didn't really hold that that was the halacha? Hakava mali amal Shmuel. What about in the case of grafting? What did Shmuel say there? Tashma. De'amar le Shmuel Ravanan. Another statement of Shmuel to Ravanan. Tani keman de'amar shlosha ushloshim. So when we say, when we give over our Braita, with regard to the grafting, if you recall, the grafting case was the statement that you can't graft 30 days before the beginning of the Shemitah year. And we said, and somebody said, well, actually, all you need is 3 days before the Shemitah year. And Rav Nachman, so that was Rabbi Yehuda ben Beter, I think, and Rav Nachman said on this, what we're talking about is not 3 days immediately before the Shemitah year, but actually 3 days or 30 days or maybe 2 weeks, according to Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon, before the month cushion that we give to the Shemitah year. In other words, we're talking about in the month of Tammuz, when you're allowed to graft or not in the month of Elul. In Elul, everybody agrees that you're not allowed to do any these certain kinds of agricultural work. But how much time do you need to give? How much cushion do you need to give so that the graft is not still taking root during Chodesh Elul? Yeah.
Well, why is the grafting in this whole discussion? What's the connection?
So it has to do with the way that the Talmud gets organized. The Talmud has a lot of organizational principles, but one is to create a list of psakim. Remember, it goes back to what we were talking about with Dov yesterday, if I understand your question correctly. So my understanding of your question is, we're talking about an androgynous. Where did grafting get into this? Yeah. So we were talking, Dov asked yesterday, well, what about, isn't the Mishnah written down and so on? And I was saying that all of this is actually oral text. Oral text, you need to come up with strategies for how you're going to remember them. One of the ways you remember them is you say, oh, Rav holds that the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef in the following 3 cases. And there are 3 totally separate cases. But we keep them in mind because Rav holds that the halacha is that way. And then we say, oh, and Shmuel holds that the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef. And then we have 2 more cases that don't have anything to do with androgynous. At least in Rav's case, one of them was androgynous, right? What I can also point out, and I think the Tosfos or Rashi pointed out here, is that in every place where in these cases where Rav paskins like Rabbi Yosef and Shmuel also paskins like Rabbi Yosef, it's all Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon together. I don't know if you noticed that when we're discussing it. But these are not simply cases of Rabbi Yosef. These are also cases where Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon are a pair. Yeah, 1 second. So that being the case, these cases are actually much more closely connected to our case of the hermaphrodite than we might have thought if it had simply been a case of Rabbi Yosef. Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah, generally in a dispute between Rabbi Yosef and any of his contemporaries, we follow Rabbi Yosef.
Yeah.
And it looks like Shmuel's not doing that, and also why would there be a question if that rule was established in the time of Sinai?
It's a good question. First of all, I have no. It is not clear to me that rule is necessarily established in the time of the the Tanaim, or even in the earlier Moraim like Rav and Shmuel. I mean, those rules tend to be later. My understanding is that I haven't read his work, but Professor Jonathan Milgram has written quite a bit on the rules of psika and when they come from and what those rules are. Yeah, it's a good question in terms of what's going on here. In any case, the case of grafting, Shmuel paskins like the one who says it takes 3 days for a graft to take root. Therefore, you need to, if your last grafting before the Shemitah year needs to be at least 3 days before the end of the month of Tammuz, so that it doesn't get into the month of Elul before the Shemitah year. So now we've gone through Shmuel. What about Rav? Koshi Mali Amarav. What about what's Rav's position in the case of a woman who is bleeding and is her bleeding associated with her contractions or not? Teku. We simply don't know. We don't know what Rav's position is on that. Kiddush Mali Amarav. In the case of the vine that is hanging over the field, what is the position of Rav? Amarav Yosef Tashma de Amarav Huna Amarav Ein Halacha ke Rabbi Yosef. So Rav Yosef has a tradition that the halacha is not like Rabbi Yosef according to Rav in this situation. Amalei Abaye. Abaye is Rav Yosef's student, and he says to him, "My chazita samachtaha. Why are you focusing on that braita? Smochaha. Rely on this other braita. Sorry, not braita. This other memra. This other statement of the Emoraim. Damar Rav Ada Amar Rav Halacha ke Rabbi Yosef." We have a tradition that Rav Ada said in the name of Rav that halacha is like Rabbi Yosef. So now we're a little stuck. We have one tradition that says that Rav doesn't paskin like Rabbi Yosef, another tradition that says that Rav does paskin like Rabbi Yosef. Amrei Bei Rav Manu. When it said, remember that the people who said Rav paskins like Rabbi Yosef in these cases, it was said by a person or people who are called Bei Rav, the house of Rav. So who are those people? Bei Rav Manu. Who are they? Rav Huna. That Bei Rav that we were talking about before that was giving this tradition is Rav Huna. The Rav Huna Amar Ein Halacha. So according to the tradition of which we started, which said that Rav paskins like Rabbi Yosef in these cases, that same tradition says that Rav doesn't paskin like Rabbi Yosef in the case of Kiddush HaKerem. And that's why we choose to privilege Rav Huna over Rav Ada. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Tumtum V'chulei. If you remember back in our Mishnah on Pei Aleph Amud Aleph, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Tumtum Shenikra V'nimtza Zachar Lo Yachlot Mipnei Shehu Kisaris. A Tumtum who is this person with undifferentiated genitalia, but there is a sense that somehow if something called kriya could have happened, I don't know, it seems to be that there's like a membrane of skin or something concealing the genitalia or something like that. But if that membrane were somehow ruptured, that we would be able to.
They do that all the time.
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was a reasonable surgical operation or something like that. It's not clear to me. What exactly we're talking about. Even in the case of a tumtum, I'm not sure what the realia is in terms of what they're thinking of. In any case, they seem to think that that membrane can be ruptured, at which point you would have some kind of understanding of whether this tumtum is a man or a woman. So Rabbi Yehuda said back in our Mishnah that if the tumtum has this thing happens, the rupture, the skin tears in some way, and you're able to see whether it's a man or a woman. It turns out to be a man. He shouldn't do chalitza because he is a saris. He is like a saris. That's what he says, kis saris. That because he is similar to a saris, he is patur from yibum, and therefore he also can't do chalitza. Amar Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Ami said about this, my avid le Rabbi Yehuda letumtum debire deotvua bekurse veikra veolid sheva banim. So what would Rabbi Yehuda do with this famous tumtum of Bire from this place? That They sat him on a particular kind of chair, maybe a chair that is special for this operation. It's not clear exactly what kind of a chair they're talking about. And this rupturing took place, and they figured out that it was a man. Ve'olid sheva banim, and he had 7 children. So how are you going to say that he's like a eunuch? He's clearly fertile. Rabbi Yehuda amalach. So what's the answer? Rabbi Yehuda would say to you, Chazor al banav me'ayin him. Check his wife carefully. You'll find that she hasn't been faithful. That these sons are not his children. Tanya, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda omer, tum lo yachlot shema yikra, v'nimtza saris chama.
1 second.
Yes.
So we have, generally speaking, we assume, for reasons of chazaka, I think, that a married couple, the children belong to the husband, right?
Mm-hmm. The children belong to. Oh, you mean that we have a chazaka? Yes.
Yeah. And here we're challenging that chazaka.
Well, except for that it's a case of a tumtum.
Right.
In other words, once you're chazaka, once you're no longer dealing with a standard case, you're dealing with somebody who you believe in most cases would be, he seems to think in all cases is actually a eunuch, right? So yeah, you're no longer, right? You're not going to hold with a chazaka of somebody who's known to be infertile, then has some kind of miraculous, starts being miraculously fertile.
That doesn't challenge the basis of the chazaka.
No, I don't think so.
Chazaka has exceptions.
Yes, that's right.
We just ignore it.
We assume that what we're going with in the case of the chazaka is a standard case. A tumtum shenikra is not a standard case. Charlie?
So yesterday, or the day before, I forget which one, we had the case where you had 2 barrels,
right? Yesterday,
and they fell into 2, and we assumed that they were still separate and everything was okay, which is unlikely in most cases. And here we're taking something and assuming the worst, as opposed to yesterday when we did the best.
So yesterday we're talking about a case of Suffolk.
Uh-huh.
In this case, it looks to me like Rabbi Yehuda doesn't think that we're in a case of Suffolk. He really believes medical fact that tumtums are sterile, and therefore there's nothing really to talk about, right? And you say, well, what would he do with this, extraneous case?
Outlier.
And he would say, he actually wouldn't say outlier. What he would say is, check it, you'll find it.
She's been sleeping around.
He said, check it, you'll find that it's not an outlier, that something has happened here, that everybody was nice of you all to think of this case as a, to think the best of this man's wife, but this man cannot give birth. It's simple medical fact. No man can give birth. This man cannot father children, and so whatever's going on, it's not from him.
Okay.
Now we have a case of Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef. It's always interesting, that Rabbi Akiva had five major students: Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Elazar. And they all named their children after one another. So you have Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi himself didn't name any student. He didn't name his son. His name Ishmael. Anyway, it's sweet that they named after one another. So this is Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda, and he says, apparently in the footsteps of his father, tumtum lo yachlotz, a tumtum who has not been verified, should not do chalitza, shema yikra v'nimtza svis chama. In case he is, this operation happens on him, and we find out that he is a natural eunuch, meaning a eunuch whose a person whose sexual organs did not fully develop. So if that were the case, what we would find out is that the chalitza that he did is not real chalitza, and that this woman who's now gone and gotten married actually got married against the zika that she has to the other brothers, if there are other brothers.
So meaning that it's not necessarily the case that he would be a Sris Chama.
But it might be the case that he's a Sris Chama. Because of that, we don't let him do chalitza. So we say, Atu kol de mekareah zachar. Said, wait, is this really the thing you have to be concerned about? That he's going to be a Sris Chama, that he's going to be some kind of natural eunuch? what our main concern with the tumtum is that they might end up being a woman, right? That's what you figure out with a tumtum. Is it a man or a woman? So what? What's that?
And there's no problem with Zika.
Okay, so it depends. If there's no problem with Zika if he's a Sris Chama either. The assumption here is that there's a brother.
Another brother.
Right? Right, what are you going to do about the brother? That's the question. So Sris Chama, that's the most likely case you can come up with a tumtum who's been Nikra.
Even with a woman wouldn't take effect anyway.
Correct. So
but it still means there's a Zika.
So I think I didn't clarify the case clearly enough. Here's what's happening. We have a tumtum, and we have another brother. Okay, we have actually two brothers and a tumtum, right? One brother dies, and his wife now is a Yevamot. Okay? Now, the tumtum should not do chalitza by her. Why not? Because what could happen? The tumtum could end up being nikra, and we would find out that he's a eunuch. Eunuchs are not chayav in yibum, and therefore his chalitza was nothing, and therefore she still has a zika to the second brother. However, the Gemara says, wait a minute, Sris Chama, a natural eunuch, that's your concern? With a tumtum, your concern shouldn't be that it's a male Sris Chama. Your concern should be that it's not even a male, that it's a woman. And clearly the
that can be the answer.
Chana and you go with the Sris Chama rather than going with the.
He knew he was a male wouldn't make a difference.
So okay, maybe that's the direction that the Gemara is going to go. But at least initially, the Gemara says, "Is that really what you think?" So we say, "Hachi kamar." This is what he meant to say. Shema yikara v'nimtza nekeva ve'afilu nimtza zachar shema yimtza Sris Chama, just like he said. My benayu. What is there a machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda said that a tumtum shouldn't, even a tumtum who is nikra shouldn't do chalitza. Why not? Because every tumtum is a saris. So what about Rabbi? So what is Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda adding in his suggestion?
Well, it depends how you take Shema Yikrav and Yitzah Sris Chama. Is it that for sure if it's a male Sris Chama, or if it's a male, it could be a Sris Chama, it may not be. In which case, in that other case before, the guy with the 7 kids, he would still say, he could still father kids.
Okay, so right. I mean, so that's exactly what they're gonna say. Amar Rava, lifsol bimkom achin velachlot shalom bimkom achim ika beinayhu. So to make her psula to the other brothers and to do chalitza in a case where there are no brothers is the place of their machloket. So what does that mean? So he would say, I'm sorry, I need to review for myself. Lifsol bimkom achim, Rashi says, Im yesh achim shlemim imo v'chalatz la tumtum l'Rabbi Yehuda de'amar shehu kesaris machzik lai besaris vadai v'lo pasla la'achim u'midyabemet u'l'Rabbi Yosei shem aktani sfeika hu u'pasla al ha'achim di'amalav saris hu ahava v'chalitzahi. So if he does do chalitza, so Rabbi Yehuda would say his chalitza is nothing. He's a saris. Even if it turns out to be a male, he's still going to be a saris. And therefore, if one of the other brothers wants to do yibum, he can certainly do yibum. Whereas Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda would say, no, we're still in a case of safek. And therefore, it's possible that he is indeed a fertile male. We need to find out if he's a sris chama or not. And therefore, if he does chalitza, that would then prevent any of the brothers from doing yibum with her until we find out what the truth is about this tumtum.
How would you find out if it's Sris Chama?
Well, Sris Chama is shriveled testicles. So I think you can tell. You can tell once the tumtum is nikra, you can tell whether it is or not. The question is,
but if he's not nikra,
so if it's not nikra, I don't think you can ever find out. And then you have an aguna. I don't know. It's not such a terrible aguna. Because she's only belav to get to the rest of the world. But it's an issue. It's an issue. Yeah, Charlie.
So if there's not another brother, this woman can marry right away.
Okay, so now so the question is, what about in the case of where there's not another brother?
Why can't you just say let him do let him do chalitza? What do you lose? Unless it's just getting married to a Kohen or something.
So what you lose is that he maybe becomes puzzle to the other brothers.
No, if there's no other brothers.
If there's no other brothers, and that's exactly what the Gemara says. Right? The Gemara says, "V'lachlot shalom bimkom achin." Right? Rabbi Yehuda would say, "There's no point. Why should you do chalitza and maybe become tzula to a kohen or something like that? Just don't bother. He's a saris. It's not going to make a difference." Rabbi Yehuda would say, "Sure, go ahead. What do you have to lose? If he's a male, if he's a fertile male, then the chalitza counts. If he's not, then there's no chalitza anyway, and it all works out." So those are the bases of their machloket. Was there a question?
No.
Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Amar Rabbi Abba Achud Rabbi Yehuda bar Zavdi Amar Rav. Wow, long train of tradition in the name of Rav. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Androgenus chayavin alav skila mishtei mekomot. We're back to the question of the hermaphrodite and whether or not you are chayav for both kinds of sexual intercourse, which we said yesterday is both anal and vaginal. Although you'll see in the language here is, I don't know, challenging for me. And so the Rav says, yes, an androgynous, you're chayav skila for both of those, for either of those kinds of sex. Meitivei, we have a baraita. Rabbi Eliezer omer androgynous chayavin alav skila kibizachar. Rabbi Eliezer says that the androgynous is like a man, and therefore it should only be the male way, meaning we said yesterday anally. B'mei dvarim orim, the zichrut shelo, in the male way. Again, it's very hard for me to interpret b'zichrut shelo as anal, but I don't know. That seems to be the direction we're going for the reason that Dov said yesterday. It's obvious that penetrating another male would be aser. So we say this. Rav says, "Hu de'amar ki haytana detanya Rabbi Simai omer androgenus chayavin alav skila mishtei mekomot." Rav isn't in trouble. Not that Rav would be in so much trouble anyway, because when Rav gets into this kind of troubles, we'll say Rav Tanahu Palig. But in this case, Rav is not in trouble because he has another braita. He has Rabbi Simai, who says that indeed an androgynous, you're chayav skila for both for having sex in both ways. My Talmud Rabbi Simai. What's the basis for Rabbi Simai's position? Amar Rav bar Hamdure Asberali. It was explained to me. Ve'et zachar lo tishkav mishkevei isha. So literally the pasuk that talks about that says that homosexual sex is not allowed says you shall not lay with a man the lyings of a woman. So he says ezel sachar sheyesh bo shnei mishkavot. What kind of man can have lyings, several different kinds? Hevei omer zendrogenus. This we're talking about. This pasuk is specifically talking about a hermaphrodite.
So is he saying that it's with and then Kavah Homer to a regular guy? In other words, where do you get the
You're asking the right questions. You're asking exactly the right questions. The Gemara will get to it. V'Rabanan avagav de'it be'shtei mishkavot et zachar ktiv. It says et zachar, a man should not lie that way, and therefore we're talking about by way of his zichut, says Rashi, right? In the male way.
So we say ask what the mishkaveh means.
So okay, the Rabbanan zachar greda minalahu. No, the Rabbanan might agree with the mishkaveh, saying, oh yeah, that is shnei mekomot. But even though it says shnei mekomot, right? We say et zachar, right? We're talking about an androgynous, according to the Rabbanan, but we have a pasuk that says, although there are two mishkavot, one of them is a what's it called? Only one of them is aser. The other one is patur. So we say, okay, well, what about just a straightforward homosexual relationship then? Or I should say sexual relationship then. Minalahu meisha. It starts to get very, very complicated exactly what the Midrash is doing here. But the Rabbanan learn from the extra word mishkavei isha, right? What could it have said? It could have just said, do not lie with a man. Why does it say mishkavei isha? The word isha at the end there. Oh, from that we learn even just a single normal homosexual intercourse.
How do you get that from Isha?
So you don't need to have a specific semantic connection to the word Isha. Isha is an extra word, and therefore that's what they're going to learn from it. So we say, okay, but what about Be'isha shelo kedalka? There is a principle that anybody who you can't have, you're asur to have sex with, you can't have either anal or vaginal sex, even with a woman. And we normally learn that from the fact that it says mishkavei isha, the lyings of a woman. So now that you've decided that the word mishkavei is in reference to a tumtum, what happened? Where do we get
Androgynous, right?
An androgynous. Where do we get the case of anal sex with a woman that would actually be a sexual, that would count as an asur sexual encounter? So minalahu. So mi ve'isha. It appears, I looked into it as far as I could, I tried to understand what was going on here. It appears that it says ve'et zachar lo tishkav mishkavei isha, and somehow the combination of the vav in the beginning and the isha at the end creates this extra thing. I don't know. It's very hard for me to understand. The only other way I can understand it is that we have ve'isha el achota lo tikach litzro legalot yevata alea b'chayah. There's in the same parasha that discusses homosexuality. There's also a discussion, or it's very easy to say the wrong thing. It discusses homosexual sex. In that same parasha, it says that you shouldn't marry a woman and her sister, and it uses the word ve'isha. So perhaps it's trying to learn from that pasuk, that the extra vav there. Why does it have ve'isha? Why doesn't it just say isha? I don't know. It's not clear to me. It is clear that there are certain nusachim. The Bach mentions it, and the Masoret Shas also mentions it, that say ve'et isha. And frankly, I'm not familiar with a pasuk that starts ve'et isha. Charlie?
Might this be one of those cases where they had a tradition that knew it had to be a derisive prohibition, and they were just trying to justify it? We see that other places.
It could be. You just would hope that they would come up with something that was a little more obvious in terms of what are they even talking about here? Are they talking about the vav in ve'et zachar? The way that Steinsaltz understood it was ve'et zachar lo tishkav mishkavei isha, and it's the vav from ve'et and the isha at the end. It's a very strange way of presenting it here, if that's the case. Amar Rav Shizbi, Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav Chisda. Lo lakol amar Rabbi Eliezer androgenus zachar ma'aliyah. Rabbi Eliezer didn't say that androgynous is a full male for everything. Who? She'im ata omer ken, because if you were to say such a thing, b'muktashim yikdash. Because if you were to say such a thing, then if somebody were to try to bring a sacrifice from an androgynous animal, a hermaphroditic animal, it would still be a case of kodesh. So we say, uminalan de lo kadash. How do we know that it doesn't work? The Tanu Rabbanan, we have a braita. Hamirba, an animal that was used for bestial sexual relationship by a man. Yes, that's right. Vehamukta, and an animal that was taken aside and laid aside, especially for avodah zarah, even if it wasn't used. Vehane'evad, and an animal that was actually worshipped. Vehaitnan, and an animal that was purchased with the fee of a prostitute. Mechir is sort of the other direction. An animal that was purchased with the price of either an actual dog. It says etnan zonal mechir kelev lo tavi beit elokecha, that you can't bring either a prostitute or the price of a dog. Biblical scholars tell us that kelev is a way that they referred to male prostitutes at that time, and I'm not sure whether how the Gemara views it. My recollection is that the Gemara actually thinks of it as an actual dog.
Yeah.
In any case, v'tumtum ve'endrogenus mitamim begadim abeta bli'ah. We're talking here about birds, which have a very specific rule that if you eat nivlat ha'of, a a bird that has died not from shechting, then it is mitameh bigadim. It causes your clothes to become tameh as soon as you put it into your mouth. So what this means is, let's say you try to bring these birds to the temple. In the temple, you don't shech birds. You do malika. You break their neck from the back. So if it's not an animal that is mutal for bringing to the temple, then when you do the malika, it's not a kosher shechita, and therefore what you have is a nevela. So all of these things are asur for kodshim, and therefore when you do malika, it's a nevela, and therefore it causes you to be in a tameh bigadim. Yes.
I think it's the throat it's when it reaches the throat.
When it reaches the throat, they say when you
That's
swallow
what
it.
they say,
Yeah.
Beta bliya. Okay, that's fine.
I mean, that's
That's fine. I actually didn't check into it very much. So excuse me for saying the wrong thing. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Tuntum Vendrogonus, Ein Mitamim Begadim Beta bliya. So Rabbi Eliezer says, actually, these animals, these birds, are not mitameh, which is interesting because Rabbi Eliezer, if that's true, then Rabbi Eliezer apparently thinks that these birds actually are acceptable in some sense for the kodshim, and therefore you can. Hold on 1 second. He seems to think that a tumtum or an androgynous bird is acceptable for kodshim, and therefore when you do malika, it's not a nevela. So that seems to be proving the opposite of what we just saw. But we have a continuation. Shehaya Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer had the following principle: Kol makom shene'emar zachar v'nekeva, ata motzi tumtum v'androgonus mibenehem. Ve'ol po'ir v'lo ne'emar bo zachar v'nekeva, hi ata motzi tumtum v'androgonus mibenehem. By four-legged animals, whenever we talk about the sacrifices, we talk about what gender you bring. Se zachar tamim, or senik kivsa, or something like that. Yes, Charlie?
For shlamim, it doesn't matter. You could bring a male or a female.
Yes, but it still, I think, discusses which. I don't know. I don't remember. It seems to me that it still uses the term zachar nekeva, which, and Rabbi Eliezer says, the truth is, it's not that important whether this is true of all cases of four-legged animals or just in the case of the ones where it actually says which gender you need to bring. But it certainly says that in a case where there's gender mentioned, you certainly can't bring it as kodesh, and therefore it must be the case that Rabbi Eliezer doesn't hold that an androgynous is a zachar lakol, right? It's not always considered to be male.
Yeah, I got the verse. Yeah. Zachar im zachar im neteva.
Okay.
For shlamim.
Right. Amar Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak. So a new statement. Afana nami tnina. I also have a Mishnah that says this. Interesting point about Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. He sees himself. He says in one place, I don't say big chidushim. I'm not a big. I don't say lots of laws or those kinds of things. What do? I organize. I cross-reference. So in many, many cases, we find Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak saying, Afana nami tnina. I also have a Mishnah that can represent this, not just a Braita. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Hakilayim v'trefa v'yotzei dofen tumtum v'androgonus lo kedoshim v'lo mekadshim. So the cases of an animal that is a hybrid, like not sure what a hybrid cow species would be, or a hybrid animal that you could bring to the
between a goat and a sheep.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Which, when we were in Chulin, we laughed at as a possibility. We discovered there actually have been such.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Or a treifa, an animal that is fatally wounded or fatally ill but not yet dead. V'yotzei dofen, an animal that was born by cesarean section. Tumtum v'androgonus lo kedoshim, they don't become kodesh. V'lo makdishim, and they don't make other things kodesh. So what are we talking about?
They've done nothing.
Yes, they don't have any standing in the kodesh world. Ve'amar Shmuel lo kedoshim b'tmura v'lo makdishim be'oseh tmura shma mina. What's the case that we're talking about? Shmuel says it's the case of trying to do tmura, trying to swap things. So you know that in cases of where you have something that's kodesh, you can't say, I would rather have this. I have this cow which I've dedicated to be a korban, but the truth is, I'd really like to have this cow for myself. What I'm going to do is not going to bring this cow. I'm going to bring that cow instead. What ends up happening is that this cow is still kodesh, and the cow over here now also is kodesh. That's the rules by Tmurah. So let's say that you have a cow that you want to be that is dedicated to a korban, and you say, I'm not going to bring this cow for a korban. Instead, I'm going to bring this hermaphroditic cow that over here that I have. So Rabbi Eliezer, according to the position of Shmuel, says nothing happened. There's the hermaphrodite cow did not become kodesh in any way. And the same goes in the other direction. Let's say you have a kodesh hermaphrodite cow, and
you can do that.
So, good question. So Rashi discusses it. Let's say you have but we'll say for a minute, maybe I'll just say right now, how do you get a kodesh hermaphrodite cow?
Oh, because it's why? Maybe because like you kodesh the mother, then it's born as an hermaphrodite. Very
good. Yeah. So you have a mother that is kodesh, and it gives birth to a hermaphrodite. So the hermaphrodite is also kodesh. So
what do you do with it?
So it's your e'at yistev. It wanders around until it gets a mum, and then you can use it for whatever.
Hermaphrodite is androgynous.
Yes, androgynous is hermaphrodite.
And androgynous wouldn't be automatically a mum?
No, it's not considered to be a mum. So when you say, the kodesh of this cow now I want to put on the kodesh onto this cow, nothing happens. It doesn't work for anything. And therefore, we learn that indeed Rabbi Eliezer doesn't consider to be androgynous to be a zachar lakol. It's funny, we've discussed this line so many times. You'd think that we'd already discussed it in the Gemara, but now the Gemara comes to that piska. Tanya, we have a baraita that says, Amar Rabbi, כשהלכתי ללמוד תורה אצל רבי אלעזר בן שמוע, חברו עליו תלמידיו כתרנגולים של בית בוקיה, ולא הניחוני ללמוד. So Rebbe says, I had this experience. I went to learn by Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, who's the Rabbi Elazar, the student of Rabbi Akiva, who I mentioned before. And his students were so aggressive, and they gathered around me so aggressively. They were like the roosters from the Beit Bukia, which Rashi tells us is this place where they have very aggressive roosters. And they wouldn't let me learn. It's interesting. I'm trying to decide, you can't really tell, but it's interesting whether Rebbe was sort of a minor celebrity because he was sort of next in line to be the Nasi, and they were so excited that Rebbe had come to visit them that they just kept on pestering him all the time, or if they were so protective of their relationship with Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua that they kind of blocked him out and they wouldn't let him get close. I'm not sure what's going on here, but it is interesting to hear these sort of first-hand accounts of the kind of stuff that happened.
Well, it's also funny because we were talking about like an oath, just a second ago.
Right, and now we're talking about Tana Golinda Bebukia. Good point.
Nice also has a photo of roosters fighting.
Okay, listen, that Steinsaltz, he has... I only was managed to learn one piece of this Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, androgynous chayavin alav skila kevizachar. The hermaphrodite, you're chayav for him like a male. Hadran alach ha'arel. That's the end of ha'arel. I think I began ha'arel and I think I finished it. I just didn't learn any of the middle. Okay, we have about 15 more minutes. I have to admit that I didn't have the opportunity to prepare the next Mishnah, but we can at least start it and go on. I feel bad because
I can do this.
You want to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although
Okay.
there's a long Rashi here which I didn't get to the bottom of at the end, so maybe we'll follow up with that tomorrow. Yeshu Taros Lavalayim.
Oh, you should go by the.
You want to? That's okay.
Yeshu Taros Lavalayim. The Alfiros leave man. There are some women who are forbidden to their husbands, but they are forbidden